She called me incompetent in front of 27 people. The next morning, she was reporting to me. It started with a spreadsheet, not a fight, not a scandal, not even a conversation. Just a damn spreadsheet. One I spent 4 nights fixing after my team leader, the queen of shifting blame and manufactured chaos, decided to send in numbers pulled out of thin air. My name is Isabel Morales. I'm 31 years old, and I've worked in corporate finance long enough to know how fragile power is, and how often it hides behind coffee mugs that say, "Girl Boss," and smiles with no sincerity behind them. My boss, Kelsey Hart, was the kind of woman who looked like she walked out of a LinkedIn ad. Expensive blazer, cold brew in hand, and a voice like frozen honey. She spoke in buzzwords and passive aggression. You know the type. To the executives, she was polished, reliable, high-performing. To the rest of us, she was a tyrant in kitten heels. I'd been under her for 3 years, quiet, consistent, the one who never missed a deadline, who fixed the budgets she broke, who trained every intern she didn't have time for. I never challenged her. I thought I didn't have to. I thought if I worked hard enough, stayed late enough, played the game, someone above her would eventually notice. Turns out, the only thing they noticed was her version of events. That Monday morning, we had our Q1 budget review. 27 people on the Zoom call. Department heads, finance team, 2 VPs. My screen showed muted faces, spreadsheet tabs, and Kelsey smiling like she was about to deliver a TED Talk. She started walking through the numbers, my numbers, without so much as acknowledging my work. I waited and waited. Then she said something I'll never forget. Now, I know there was some confusion earlier because Isabel had submitted an outdated version, but we got it sorted. Confusion? Outdated? I unmuted myself, my voice calm but clear. Actually, that version was submitted Friday night after I reconciled your original input. The error came from the projections in column F, which you had. She cut me off, laughed. We don't need to get defensive, Izzy. Everyone makes mistakes. I froze. Izzy. I hate that nickname. I've corrected her more than once, but it wasn't the name. It was the tone. The way she said it like she was brushing dirt off her shoulder, like I was an intern trying to justify a missed assignment. The call went quiet. No one spoke, not even the people who knew the truth. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. They were going to let her do it. Let her take credit. Let her twist the story. Let her humiliate me. Unless I stopped her. So I smiled, muted myself, and said nothing. Because sometimes, silence is strategy. What no one on that call knew, not even Kelsey, was that 3 weeks earlier, I'd had a drink with an old college friend named Ryan. Ryan was now a director of corporate restructuring at the parent company. He had hinted, off the record, that a major reorg was coming. Keep your head down. Make yourself indispensable, he said. They're watching. And they were. 2 days after that call, I got an email from HR. Subject line, confidential, internal shift. When I opened it, my breath caught. The parent company was eliminating Kelsey's position, and I'd been selected to lead a new division under a new structure, reporting directly to the regional CFO. Translation: I wasn't getting promoted. I was taking her job. Block 2. I didn't have to fire her. I just had to let her talk. The HR rep's face was stiff on the video call, equal parts polite and nervous. Just to be clear, Isabel, you'll be taking over Kelsey's current duties, but under a restructured role. Same team, same projects, but new oversight, new protocols. She paused. There will be sensitivity during the transition. I smiled. Of course, I'll handle it with professionalism. But inside, my blood was boiling. Not because I hated Kelsey, but because I had spent 3 years swallowing the bitterness she brewed, And now that I was rising, I knew I had two choices: punish her or replace her. I chose the second, because the worst thing you can do to someone like her is become undeniable without ever raising your voice. The announcement went out on a Thursday. Kelsey wasn't in the office. She was on mental wellness leave, a trend she picked up after one of our interns mentioned therapy. And suddenly, Kelsey was posting mindfulness quotes between budget meetings. The email was short. "We are excited to announce Isabel Morales as the new division lead of strategy and reporting, effective immediately." The wording was cold. Surgical. No. We thank Kelsey for her service. No legacy paragraph. Just me. It hit the company Slack like a dropped match. I got 15 messages in the first hour. Some sincere. Most just trying to figure out what I knew. But the best one came from Ryan. "Play it slow. She'll dig her own grave." And she did, because the next day, Kelsey showed up, unannounced, uninvited. I was in the glass conference room, reviewing transition notes, when I saw her heels click across the floor like an alarm clock nobody asked for. She looked confused, not shocked, not angry, just off balance, like someone had told her the floor was marble and she stepped onto quicksand. I met her eyes. She blinked. Why was my badge deactivated? I stood up, calm, professional. "We're restructuring. Your position's been absorbed. You should have received the separation packet yesterday." Her mouth twitched. No smile, no frown, just twitching, like her brain couldn't fully translate what I'd said. "So, you're replacing me?" "No," I said. "The role is being replaced. I'm leading the new structure." She laughed, but it wasn't her usual laugh. It was brittle, hollow. "You? Isabel, you're not even management level. You don't know how to—" "I do," I said gently. "I just didn't perform it the way you expected." She stepped forward, lowered her voice. "They'll realize their mistake." "Maybe," I said, "but they made it anyway." I offered her the packet. She didn't take it, just stared at me like I'd robbed her. But here's the thing. I didn't steal anything. I earned it. She just never imagined I could. She left, didn't say goodbye to anyone. But she didn't need to, because by Monday, half the department had come to my office, not to gossip, but to exhale. They weren't scared anymore. They pitched ideas, suggested improvements, and every single one of them, in their own way, said the same thing. Finally. Block 3. The mess she left behind wasn't on paper. It was in people. It took less than a week to realize that Kelsey hadn't just mismanaged tasks. She'd poisoned the culture. I sat in my new office, same building, new title on the door, and read through team feedback from the past year. HR surveys, exit interviews, performance reviews. The language jumped out like bruises. I stopped speaking up in meetings. I got shut down too many times. Kelsey took credit for my proposal. I was afraid to ask questions. I didn't want to look stupid. I requested mental health leave and was told to just push through. One comment just said, "I cried in the parking garage 3 days in a row." That one? That was mine. I'd written it anonymously 6 months ago, assuming stupidly that no one read those things. Now here I was, reading my own cry for help from the other side of the desk. That's when it hit me. I didn't want to be better than Kelsey. I wanted to build what she never did. A team that didn't flinch. A culture that didn't punish honesty. A space where quiet didn't mean weak. So I started small. I scheduled one-on-one meetings with every team member. No agenda, just space. Most were awkward at first. People expected corporate speak, KPIs, workflow optimization, quarterly synergy. Instead, I asked, "What's one thing you wish this job let you be honest about?" At first, they hesitated. But then, it came pouring out. One said they were scared to have kids because the maternity policy was so unforgiving. Another admitted they had been diagnosed with anxiety but hid it, terrified Kelsey would frame it as instability. One guy, James, our data analyst, said he'd stopped sharing creative suggestions because Kelsey told him, "Don't act like you're smarter than you are." He was smart. Smart enough to hold his ideas like hostages just to stay employed. I told him, "Pitch me the idea she shut down. I'll actually listen." He did. And it was good. Like, company-saving good. A new model for predictive trend analysis that could shave weeks off reporting delays. It wasn't flashy, just elegant, functional, real. We implemented it within a month. He didn't say thank you. He just smiled like a part of him had been returned. But not everyone adjusted smoothly. There was Mia. Sharp, funny, used to sarcasm as a shield. She called my new style therapy management and rolled her eyes whenever I asked open-ended questions. "I don't need to be nurtured," she said. "I need deadlines." "You'll get both," I replied, "but one of them won't hurt you." She scoffed. But the next week, she stayed late voluntarily to help a junior team member. It wasn't an overnight transformation, but the atmosphere shifted. People smiled in the hallway. Jokes came back. Someone brought in donuts. Not because it was mandatory, but because the office felt lighter. And me? I slept again. I didn't grind my teeth anymore. Didn't draft imaginary arguments in my head during my commute. And most of all, I stopped apologizing for being calm. Because for years, Kelsey made me believe that only loud women get listened to. Turns out, a whisper when it tells the truth echoes louder than a scream. Block 4. She lost her title, but not her talent for rewriting the past. It started with a LinkedIn post. I was drinking my usual oat latte on a Saturday morning, scrolling idly, not really looking for anything. And then I saw her name. Kelsey Hart. Profile photo updated. Caption bold. Sometimes the hardest career moves are the ones that challenge our pride. I've recently stepped away from a toxic corporate environment to protect my peace, prioritize my growth, and realign with my purpose. Toxic. I laughed out loud. Not because it was funny, but because it was so perfectly on brand. She didn't just leave, she escaped. She wasn't fired, she was evolving, and the comments were flooded with support. Proud of you, Kelsey. You're an inspiration. Takes real courage to walk away. Their loss. I wanted to throw my phone into the sun, because that post wasn't for her next employer. It was for my team. The same people she ignored, belittled, and gaslit. The ones she knows still follow her. She was trying to plant seeds of doubt before the truth had time to settle. I didn't comment, didn't react, just watched. Until the next day. When one of our junior analysts, Ava, walked into my office with a look I knew too well. Confusion wrapped in loyalty. "Hey, I saw Kelsey's post. Is she okay?" I looked up from my laptop. "Do you think she is?" Ava hesitated. "I don't know. I guess I just feel weird. Like, she trained me, you know?" I nodded. Because I did know. That's what abusive power looks like in the corporate world. Not screaming, not slamming doors, confusion, making people question what they felt, twisting memory into obligation. "Ava," I said softly, "what's the first thing she ever said to you after you made a mistake?" Ava didn't answer right away. Then, she asked if I was really cut out for this environment. I held her gaze. "Does that sound like mentorship?" She looked away. "No. You didn't imagine it, and you don't have to carry it." She exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for months. That same afternoon, I checked Slack and saw something incredible. Someone had posted a team-wide link to a shared document. The title? Things We Survived, But Don't Want to Repeat. It wasn't official, It wasn't company-sanctioned, but it was real. Anonymous entries started rolling in. Being told my tone was too emotional when I was just asking a question. Watching Kelsey take credit for a dashboard I worked 6 weekends on. Being laughed at for needing a second monitor, then blamed for missing details. Pretending not to know the answer in meetings so she wouldn't accuse me of showing off. I read them all, every single one, and realized something. I didn't have to refute Kelsey's narrative, because the truth was speaking for itself. Later that week, HR reached out. Apparently, Kelsey had filed an inquiry. She wanted to clarify the nature of her departure, citing potential slander and brand damage. My heart stopped for a second. Not from fear, from exhaustion. But then I remembered. I didn't make this mess. I just cleaned it. So I replied with 3 lines. Please see attached documentation. All restructuring decisions were made above my role at the time. I have no further comment. No defense. No attack. Just facts. Because she wanted a battle. I'd already won a war. Block 5. I spent years trying to be seen. Now that I had to decide what they'd see next. 2 weeks after the Kelsey fallout cooled, I got a calendar invite from someone I'd never spoken to directly. Martin Daly, Regional CFO. The subject line was vague. Touchpoint, Culture and Performance Insights. I stared at it for a full minute. Because Daly wasn't just a higher-up. He was the kind of executive whose name appeared in shareholder updates, who flew first class from city to city, whispering strategic pivots and cost-saving insights that reshaped entire org charts. He didn't do touch points, especially not with middle management. I showed up to the call early, heart pounding, palms cold. He appeared right on time, silver hair, flawless posture, polite nod. Isabel, he said, you've been mentioned to me more than once over the past few months. I figured it was time we spoke directly. I blinked. Mentioned? In what context? He smiled. In the one that matters. You stabilized a fractured department. You implemented measurable process upgrades. And more importantly, your team is talking about you, in a good way, which is rare these days. I was speechless, because compliments like that in corporate finance, they're like eclipses. Rare, brief, slightly terrifying. I appreciate that, I said carefully. He leaned forward. Let me ask you something. Where do you see yourself in this company in 5 years? The dreaded question. But I answered honestly. Leading people, not just numbers. Creating systems that actually work for humans, not just budgets. I want to fix what culture slides under the rug. He studied me for a long second. Then he said something that changed everything. We're considering launching a leadership culture council, cross-regional, cross-functional. Internal thought leaders who can help us reshape how we manage. You'd be the youngest member. I didn't respond, because inside my chest, everything roared, not with fear, not even with ambition, but with clarity. This was what I'd been waiting for. Not a promotion, not revenge, not a headline. A seat at the table that decides what the table is. If you're offering, I finally said, I'm accepting. He nodded. And just like that, I became something new. Not just a manager, not just a survivor, but a designer of what work could be. After the call, I sat in my car for 15 minutes. Silent. Processing. My hands were shaking, but not from anxiety, from gravity. Because for the first time in my career, I wasn't adapting to someone else's structure. I was being asked to build it. I didn't text anyone right away, not even Ryan. I drove home, changed into a hoodie, sat at my kitchen table, and opened a new document titled, Everything I Swore I'd Fix If I Ever Had the Chance. Because now, I had it. Block 6. I didn't need to call her out by name. Everyone already knew who I was talking about. It came as an email from the communications team. "Hi, Isabel. We re-thrilled to invite you as a featured speaker at the upcoming Women in Finance Leadership Summit next quarter. Your department's transformation has become a case study in authentic culture building." I blinked, then reread it twice. I'd heard of the summit. Every year, hundreds of women from corporate leadership, venture capital, consulting, and HR gathered to talk about progress, power, and policy. It was sleek, sharp, sometimes insufferably polished, but always influential. I forwarded it to Ryan. He responded in under a minute. "You're headlining. Do it. But check the lineup." I did. Scrolled down the email. Panel 3. Radical Accountability, Rebuilding Trust in Leadership. Speaker 1. Kelsey Hart, Executive Coach, Heartwork Solutions. I felt my throat tighten. Executive, Coach, Solutions. That was her brand now? I clicked through to her site. It was real, painfully real. Clean white backgrounds, her new logo, staged photos with coffee mugs and MacBooks, testimonials about healing leadership and restoring trust. My jaw clenched, because I wasn't afraid of seeing her again. I was afraid of seeing her lie, in front of an audience, and watching them believe it. I sat with that fear, let it breathe, and then decided I would go. But not for her. For everyone else who's ever been interrupted, overlooked, or dressed down in a glass conference room just to watch their aggressor get promoted for vision. I spent the next month crafting my keynote. The title? What We Learn from the Leaders Who Fail Us. Not subtle, but not petty either. I didn't mention names. I didn't share revenge. I told the story of what silence does to a team, what gaslighting feels like in annual reviews, what it means to show up to work every day knowing your ideas will be stolen before your second coffee. I wove it with data, real outcomes, post-transition results. I ended with this. Good leadership doesn't ask you to shrink in order to fit. It expands to hold space for who you are, not just what you produce. And when we reward cruelty masked as excellence, we lose people who could have rebuilt everything better. Standing ovation. I wasn't expecting it. I was expecting polite applause, maybe a few nods, some handshakes. Instead, I got a line of women who waited to talk to me. Some cried. One whispered, "You just described my boss, and now I know I'm not crazy." Another leaned in and said, "That panelist before you, Kelsey, I knew something was off, but now I know what it was." I didn't respond. I just nodded. Because some stories don't need defending, they just need telling. And when Kelsey passed by me in the hallway later, she didn't say a word, didn't make eye contact, but her face, tight smile, clenched jaw, told me everything. She'd heard the truth. And this time, there was no muting me. Block 7. The company gave me a ladder, but I'd started building my own exit. The summit changed everything. Not overnight, but subtly, steadily. Like the way the air shifts before a thunderstorm. My inbox filled with invitations, webinars, podcasts, advisory boards. Women I'd never met tagging me on LinkedIn, saying I articulated something they'd felt but never had language for. It felt surreal. A year ago, I was budgeting paperclip orders and triple-checking email drafts for tone. Now, I was being asked to define culture. But the message that shook me the most didn't come from a stranger. It came from Tanya Langston, former VP of Strategic Culture at a consulting giant, someone I'd followed quietly for years, whose books I kept next to June's journals on my bookshelf. Her email was short. "Heard your talk. You're not just a reformer, you're a founder. Have you ever considered launching something of your own? Let me know if you're ready. I can connect you." I sat with that email for days. I didn't tell anyone. Not even Ryan. Not even Anna. Because something about it felt sacred. The idea of walking away from corporate safety, benefits, stability, the ever-so-treasured seat at the table. To start from scratch? It terrified me. But also, it called me. I started sketching ideas late at night. What would I build? A consulting firm, an internal reform agency, a storytelling lab for corporate survivors. Names bounced in my head: Glasshouse Collective, Echo Room, Quiet Authority. I scribbled them on sticky notes, stared at them for hours, moved them like chess pieces across my desk. Meanwhile, my job was thriving. The team was cohesive, productive. We were outperforming projections, lowering attrition, onboarding faster than ever. Daly invited me to join the Diversity Finance Board. I accepted, but with one condition. I want authority, not applause. He laughed. You've got both. But part of me knew. This place was never meant to hold someone like me for long. It had made space, begrudgingly, after I carved it open. But to stay meant fighting new battles. Slower ones. Tamer ones. The kind that nibble at your soul until you forget you ever had fire. Then came the lunch meeting. Tanya flew in. She was taller than I expected, warmer. Wore a deep green dress and no jewelry, just certainty. We met at a rooftop cafe. Midday sun, low jazz playing. I'll be direct, she said. I have investors who'd back a vision like yours. If you want to build a new model, one that doesn't just fix broken companies, but replaces them entirely, I can help make it real. I asked her what it would cost. She said, the comfort of being understood by the wrong people. And I swear, I felt every bone in my body sit up. Because wasn't that what I'd been doing all along? Translating my truth into terms they could stomach? How soon would we start? I asked. As soon as you decide you're done surviving. I looked out at the skyline. All those towers built on silence and strategy. And then back at her. Okay, I said. Let's build something that doesn't require anyone to recover from it. Block 8. Leaving wasn't the scary part. It was realizing I didn't need their permission anymore. I gave myself 30 days, not to plan, not to prepare, to grieve. Because even when you're leaving something that hurt you, a place that underestimated you, undervalued you, it still leaves fingerprints. The company had been my proving ground, my battlefield, my stage, my refuge, all at once. And even though I'd outgrown it, I needed to mourn the version of me who once begged to belong there. I cleaned out my office slowly, not like someone sneaking out, like someone closing a book. I left behind a clean desk, 2 plants, and a single post-it taped to the inside of the top drawer. If they ever make you doubt your value, read your own damn work. My resignation was met with surprise. Daly called me personally. Are you sure? He asked. Yes, I said. You don't want to wait? Ride this wave a little longer? I already did, I said. Now I want to build the ocean. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, we'll miss you, Isabel, but somehow, I'm not surprised. I smiled. That's the nicest thing you could have said. The email announcement went out the next morning. After an incredible journey with our company, Isabel Morales will be stepping down from her role to pursue new opportunities. Her impact on our culture and leadership standards will be felt for years to come. My inbox exploded, not with condolences, with possibilities, women asking how I did it. Men admitting they finally understood what they'd been enabling. And 3 people, from completely different departments, asking if I'd consider taking them with me, wherever I was headed. That night, I sat in my now unfamiliar living room. Boxes half-packed, laptop open. The domain for my new venture was live. Quiet Authority. Cohen under the header, 1 sentence. We don't fix broken systems. We help people build new ones. From the inside out. It didn't feel like a mic drop. It felt like a light switch. And for the first time in a decade, I didn't feel like I owed anyone an explanation. No justification, no apology, just truth. I went to bed early that night, slept deeply, no grinding teeth, no imaginary arguments, just quiet. The kind that isn't empty, but earned. Block 9. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She asked for a seat at my table. It came in the form of a LinkedIn message. I almost didn't open it. There was no profile photo, no headline, just a name. Kelsey Hart. My chest tightened before I even clicked. The message was short. I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I saw what you're building, and I want to help, if you'll let me. I read it 3 times, then closed the laptop. Walked around my apartment like it would clear the static. Help? Help? The woman who silenced me, discredited me, stood over me while I doubted everything I knew. Now wanted in? I didn't respond. For 3 days. Then I replied with one line. Meet me for coffee. No promises. We met in a corner cafe with recycled wood tables and plant walls, the kind of place that screams emotional clarity. She looked different. Not in that superficial way. In the way people look when they've run out of stories that work on themselves. No armor, no spin, just exhaustion in designer clothes. She didn't reach for a hug, didn't lead with a pitch. She just said, I'm not asking to be part of your company. I'm asking to learn how to undo the kind of leader I became. That stopped me. Because it wasn't a power move, it was a confession. And for the first time, I saw her not as my antagonist, but as a product of the same system that almost broke me. I became who I thought I had to be, she said. I thought fear kept teams sharp, that perfection was loyalty, that silence was efficiency. She took a deep breath. You proved me wrong, publicly, and I deserved it. I stared at my cup, felt the sting of old fury, but also the tug of something harder than revenge. Mercy. I didn't offer it, not outright. But I told her this. I'm not building a second chance factory. I'm building something people shouldn't have to recover from. She nodded. Can I sit in the room? Not to lead, just to listen. I thought of Ava, of James, of the team that needed space to rebuild because of her. But I also thought of the message my platform was built on. That people can change. That leadership isn't a title. That we rise by dismantling what hurt us, not replicating it. So I told her, you can sit in the back, no speaking, no credit, just presence. She smiled, the smallest smile I'd ever seen on her, but real. I can work with that, she said. Block 10. It started with silence. It ends with a room full of voices that no longer flinch. The first cohort met on a Tuesday morning. 15 people, 8 women, 4 men, 3 non-binary, from 6 different companies. They sat in mismatched chairs, sipping free coffee, eyes scanning handouts with my logo at the top. Quiet authority, no desks, no slide decks, no mission statements in all caps, just questions. The first one on the page. What version of you shows up when you feel safe? And what version shows up when you don tea? They didn't answer right away. I didn't want them to, because that silence wasn't fear. It was consideration, the kind of pause that comes before transformation. I introduced myself, not with titles or stats, just, I spent 10 years becoming who I thought leadership demanded. Then I spent 2 building the person I actually wanted to be. They nodded. Some scribbled. Some just breathed. Over the next 2 hours, we didn't fix anything. We didn't plan takeovers or pitch decks. We unlearned, together. And for the first time in my life, I saw what it looked like when power didn't require someone to shrink, when ambition didn't eat empathy, when voices rose without crushing others in the process. After the session, one woman, Priya, lingered behind. She looked like she had something to say but didn't know how to say it. "Do you ever worry it'll fall apart?" she asked. "That this will be seen as soft? Idealistic?" I smiled. "Every day." She blinked. "But you're doing it anyway." "Exactly." She laughed, a little embarrassed. "You're braver than me." I wasn't. I just got tired of bleeding for applause. We stood in silence. Then she asked, "What made you start this? Really?" I thought about June, about the silent meetings, the gaslight-laced emails, the night I walked home crying in a blazer that didn't fit, wondering if maybe I was the problem. Then I said, "Because I wanted to be the leader I needed at 24, and no one showed up, so I became her." She didn't respond, just nodded, and walked out standing a little taller. Later that night, I sat at my desk, the same one where I used to rewrite emails 10 times to sound calm enough. I opened my notebook. On the first page, I wrote, "Legacy isn't what you leave behind, it's what you make possible." And beneath that, "Let them underestimate you. Just don't join them." I closed the notebook, turned out the light, and smiled. Not because I won, but because now, I don't need to.